Unit 17, Part 11. Just going to make the point from the third paragraph of page 327, Klenk makes. Okay, so we got our symbolization for some dogs wear collars in relational predicate logic. Okay, you remember, that's where we were. Now we're doing this. We used two quantifiers, right, including, notice the quantifier here, which came out in quantifying the predicate, right? So we had this partial translation, there exists an x such that both x is a dog, and now I paraphrased the predicate using the variable x, which still refers back to that x. There exists an x for which two things are true. One is that it's a dog, and there's another thing that's true about that one x, namely x wears a collar. And then we analyze that predicate, and a quantifier came out, and that's what you've got to get used to in these translations. Laying down the overall categorical form, A, I, E, O, although in practice E's, you're going to, right, E's are things like no Australian is a surfer, universal exclusion. A lot of times it's going to be easier to use the negated existential quantifier, right? Anyway, what you've got to get used to is that in analyzing the subjects and predicates, quantifiers are going to be required for the full perspicuous relational predicate analysis, relational predicate logic analysis, okay? And that's what happened here. X wears a collar became, right, we grasped this linguistic being, this phrase, as there is a collar that X stands in the relation to something, right? Wearing is a relation, it's going to be RFW, XY, and a specific kind of thing, namely a collar. Okay, so we had to, notice, it's very crucial to grasp, to notice, pay attention to the arrangement of brackets in the final answer, and to notice that this stuff all becomes that stuff, right? This predicate, first of all, it slots into the position of the second conjunct of the propositional function bound by the first existential quantifier. Secondly, what it is that gets slipped in there gets its own quantifier binding the rest of the second conjunct. So what is the propositional function? It's a conjunction of a one-place propositional function and an existential statement, right? Okay. So the point from the third paragraph, Klenk's point in the third paragraph of 327, the last paragraph of this page, is that in our definitions, we always use, if it's one place, we always use CX, or AX, BX, we always use the variable X. If it's two places, it's always XY. So we've defined CX equals X is a collar. I'm just paying attention to the fact that it's X here. X is a collar, right? So that's that. And then, so that's how we give our definitions. But notice that we do not do this, right? We had to use another variable here. There exists a Y, such that Y is a collar, and X wears Y. This is going to be the crucial bit. Notice that we did not do this. There exists an X such that both X is a dog, and there exists an X such that X is a collar and WXX. And this is really the main problem, because what does this say, right? Translate this back, if it makes sense at all, to quote Klenk. Right? There is something which is both a dog and is a collar, right? Because this still binds this. And the thing, the one thing, that one X, this always refers back to the one X. There is something which is a dog, and it's also a collar. I've sort of double quantified over it. There's also a collar, and the dog wears itself. The dog that is a collar wears itself. Okay, don't want that. Our logic is attempting to capture the wearing relation, and it's crucial that our logical symbolism makes possible that the wearing relation is not a relation where the thing wears itself, right? Where the X and the Y in WXY equals X as Y, where the X and the Y are different objects. We want to make possible X and Y being different objects. And in the vast majority of cases, that possibility will be the actuality. Most things don't wear themselves. Most things wear things other than themselves. And to be able to make that representation possible, we have to not have this. Not do it like this, but do it like this. Okay? So, good. All right, so let's move on to the next one. 3. This is the one that Klenk works out on 328. Okay? And there's reasons why there are these partial things on the board. So the sentence is, any dog that wears a collar has an owner. The first thing I've written down is step 1 of the 1, 2, 3 step of translating. The overall form of the sentence is an A. It's universal inclusion. Why universal? It says any, okay? Any gets universal quantifier, right? Anything will do. For all x, x will do. Or for all x, if x is a thing, then x will do. Anything will do. Okay, so it's universal and it's inclusion. All right, so I lay this down and this down, right? And whatever I'm going to put here, it's going to go in brackets, and I'm going to make sure that it is the antecedent of the conditional, of the overall conditional, right? When I get to this, when I get to the final analysis, I'm going to put a hook here and a universal here which binds the whole thing. I'm going to make sure that these analyses, which are tricky and require various extra quantifiers, I'm going to make sure that they go in the right place. That's the whole point of having the first step as the first step. They've got to go in the right place. They've got to fit in, slot in as here, antecedents, and the antecedent and the consequent. Why? Because it's an A form, right? It's universal inclusion. And how do we do that? We say that for every x, if you're in the subject class, then you're in the predicate class as well, okay? Okay, in some dogs wear collars, notice, the subject was very simple, dogs, dx, your familiar monadic predicate, one-place predicate, dx. The analysis of the predicate, subject, dogs, predicate, things that wear collars. The analysis of the predicate that's what required the extra quantifier. That's where the complication came in. Here we've got more complications really in the subject, okay? Because what is the subject? It's the noun plus all the modifiers. It's dog that wears collars, right? Where does the subject end and the predicate begin? At the verb. Dog that wears collar has an owner. Has, that's the verb, having, right? What am I saying? What am I asserting in this categorical? That the things in the subject, things that are in the subject class, dogs that wear collars, what about them? I'm predicating of them that they have owners, right? The predicate is X has an owner, right? Or has an owner. Right? So that's where the subject ends at dog that wears a collar. Okay, so I could lay down my form first. Now I do rephrasing to get the subject and predicate phrase expressed with the variables, and I put that in here, right? I put this exactly in here, within the brackets. X is a dog, and X wears a collar. And here I would put X has an owner. Okay. And now the translation of the subject is, we're sort of familiar with it from the previous page, right? X is a dog, so, right, you just analyze this, remember the old strategy, right? This is a propositional function, it has a major operator, that's what you identify first, identify the form of the thing first. This is a conjunction, X is a dog, and X wears a collar, right? It is a conjunction, so my major operator is going to be a conjunction. The major operator of what? This thing, which is in the end going to be the antecedent of the conditional bound by the universal quantifier, right? But it's a conjunction. X is a dog, easy. Left conjunct is easy. Right conjunct. X wears a collar. Okay, we did that analysis. Misspelled, but it's wears. X wears a collar. Ooh, wearing is a relationship. X wears Y. WXY. Oh, it's wearing something in particular, something specific, namely a collar. That's going to contrast with how we analyze the predicate. that it's something specific that it's wearing, namely a collar. But it becomes, see the previous analysis, it's not going to, there exists a y such that both y is a collar, and x wears y, w, x, y. Okay, and as I said, when I fill this in, I'm going to make sure they go in the, right, this is going to bind the whole thing, and the whole thing is going to be a conditional, right? Okay, so the predicate, x has an owner, right? So that was the subject, that goes there, it slots into the antecedent of the conditional. Getting the major operator right is crucial to getting these right. Now, x has an owner. You are asserting existence again. There exists z, so we've already done stuff with x and with y, right? And this x is still going to bind an appearance of x over here. In my rephrasing, x has an owner, right? Having is a possessive relation, right? So it's a relation. That's what I'm trying to say, right? X has y. So we've got we're asserting the existence of an owner, right? X has an owner. Sorry. So I am asserting the existence of something that is owning x, right? There exists a z such that O, Z, X. There exists a z such that z owns x, right? And if you look at Klenk's explanation, why do we not have a specific one-place predicate for the, what kind of owner it is? Just as here we had a collar. Because it doesn't specify, the sentence does not specify what kind of owner. We don't have, for example, and there is a person, there exists a z such that x is a person and x is an owner, because that's not implied by the sentence. The dog could be owned, the dog that wears a collar could be owned by a corporation, she says. So since we're not given the information of what kind of being is the owner, right, we don't therefore encode that information that we don't have as a one-place predicate. Here we were told what kind of being is the thing that the dog wears, collar. Here we don't have that, but we do have the existence of the owner. X has an owner, right? There is a being that is owning. There is a being in the first position of the owning relation between that being and the dog. Right? So there exists a z that is in the position of owning a dog. Position by I mean the first position in the predicate. X owns y. Right? So we have the existence of something in this position is what I mean. The first position, X owning the dog. The dog is in the second position. The dog is the one owned.